Hey everyone, this is Ben, and I'm joined here with Ryan, and this is Liberty Theory number 4. It's been a while, but we're back, and we think we have an interesting topic to talk about today. Obviously, the 2016 presidential election is dominating the headlines, and interestingly enough, Donald Trump is still in the lead. I know in the 2012 election, it seemed every other week a new candidate was surging in the polls, but Donald Trump has maintained an impressive streak of support. And even though he's obviously obviously a clown, but there's a lot of people that support him and a lot of people that hate him. And we would like to dive into the reasons why people would support him, why he's popular, and maybe it's not so bad that an interesting character like this might be leading in the polls. But I think as we get started, I think Ryan will give us an intro to this now.
Yeah, I came to Ben and I said, I think libertarians should vote for Donald Trump. And and I could hear Ben seizing and starting to stroke out when I said that. And
I can't feel my face.
and I feel quite strongly that this big government pseudo conservative is just about the best thing that this country could have hoped for at this moment in this context. And so I want to not only convince anyone listening, but hopefully win my brother over a little bit here by the time we're done. So take out all of the rhetoric, all of the Donald Trump brand. And if you go down his 5 policy positions on his website, it sounds like a Republican. So, reform U.S.-China trade, reform the Veterans Administration, lower and flatten taxes, get rid of deductions and loopholes, gun control policy, make carry permits nationwide, and make states accept carry permits, and enforce the gun laws on place, and then immigration, build a wall, end birthright citizenship, defund sanctuary cities, recriminalize, so to speak, illegal crossing, and require employers to hire citizens before being eligible to hire from overseas. Sounds like a Republican to me. So
Yeah, pretty close. A lot of a lot of protectionist kind of policies there.
yeah, that does not sound like a libertarian, but boy, if you're used to Republicans, that sounds pretty. That doesn't sound too objectionable. Okay, so why would a libertarian be excited for a pretty big government Republican? Well, Trump has done something for liberty that no other Republican or Democrat could possibly do. Trump has shown both politicians and the public that one strong alpha male can completely neuter the narrative that's dominant and the media.
Absolutely.
That's all it takes is one strong person to completely neuter the dominant narrative. And that is profound for the cause of liberty.
Sure, it definitely makes a template. Yeah, and just when you just said that, I was thinking about, oh yeah, he had a scuff with Megyn Kelly. He insulted Fiorino's, I think that's how you pronounce her name.
Yeah.
I have a real problem saying her name for some reason. Like pretty much called her ugly, and he didn't back down, and it all deflected off of him. Nobody was able to to really hurt him with all that. So that's really impressive.
Yeah, and perhaps the most he gives permission. So there's this theory or this idea that there's this large swath of conservative-ish, libertarian-ish people, or at least non-politically correct, and they're all thinking damn near the same thing, but they just don't have permission to say it. And Donald Trump is giving people permission to say the things that you're not allowed to say. And the best example of this is when that harpy asked Trump, if you're president, will you make sure that I, as a woman, will get paid the same as a man? And he said, if you do as good of a job, you'll get paid the same amount. And it was sort of jabby and sarcastic by Trump. And if it was any other Republican, it would have been a much more prissy, oh, well, wages, wages are, something we're looking at. And
oh, right, yeah.
And here's a complete non-answer that will just make sure I don't get in trouble.
Oh, right, yeah. You'd have to spin some sort of rhetoric that appeases the unfair question, but then also doesn't betray, or doesn't paint you as like a leftist or somebody who actually believes in the gender wage gap.
And I don't think you can say that Donald Trump is dishonest. So I think he's reasonably honest. And the same thing is happening with Bernie Sanders. It's just he's a freaking commie. So yeah.
Right, yeah. Before we go on, I wonder, do you think that Trump is kind of given a pass on some of this stuff, like being quippy and confrontational and, kind of and uncouth? Is that because he has no history as a politician and that's kind of the expectation has been set before he even entered the race? Or do you think, I'm not sure if any of the other Republican nominees could pull it off. I'm not sure if that's possible.
I think that's the less important aspect of this. I think that's a part of it, but the main force is people are pretty damn angry, and they see us driving right off the cliff.
Yeah.
If people didn't see the country driving off a cliff, he would have stood no chance to get this far.
Sure. It is kind of a perfect storm for him, for sure.
And the reason for that is people feel concerned enough to look for the Churchill that's running.
Yeah.
When things are good, people vote in namby-pamby, are selected politicians. When people are scared, they vote in the alpha male.
Sure.
And so Trump's the alpha male, but he's also just this tsunami of liberal narrative crushing awesomeness.
Yeah, it's almost, if Trump really does have a deep appeal to even the common voter, obviously he's popular with Republicans. I don't know about independents, but you could almost see it as kind of like a self-defense maneuver, because he talks heavily about restricting immigration, like trade protectionism, all this kind of stuff that's, obviously because their terrorist attacks are becoming, or the big ones we've had recently, and the economy's bad, huge trade deficit. And it seems like he's a pretty good, reactionary. Oh, here's here's an alpha male who speaks exactly to those kind of deep-seated emotional, kind of concerns.
But we say these things, and a libertarian goes, "Well, who the hell cares? He's a big statist."
Oh, right, it's not compelling for me at all. And I watched a bunch of his interviews earlier today. I'm thoroughly unimpressed. Yeah, but I can kind of see where.
If you go back just a couple years, or no, this is like within the last couple months, he was being interviewed, and he basically politely says that he wants to pay 100% for poor people's health care. Yeah. So, up to a point, single payer, federal government's paying for all your health. Okay, well that's, oh my God, instantly disqualified for anyone who wants limited government.
Oh, sure. Yep.
But that's coming anyway.
That issue's definitely been softened for us since we're practically there.
Yeah. The next big disastrous government overhaul of healthcare is coming anyway. So we have to ask ourselves, we have to just remind ourselves that if he's got a profoundly anti-freedom position, welcome to the club. So, so my contention is the positives that he brings are just pure upside from the alternative.
Just because he shakes things up.
Exactly. So if you're allowed to say, if he gave people in the country permission to say, literally, I want to kick out all the illegal immigrants, we now have permission to say taxation is theft, and we don't have to cower in a corner. And we now can say,
and the war on drugs,
sending someone to prison for a drug offense is basically kidnapping by the government. And it breaks down the hurt feelings walls that we're all afraid to cross.
Sure. Oh yeah, he's kind of the first one into the breach, and
it's starting dinner table conversations. People are talking about this guy and bringing up subjects that were either taken for granted or you're not allowed to talk about.
Right.
And it's coming from someone that's pretty much a National Socialist, which is so frustrating.
Isn't it? Yeah.
But the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So I think that he's setting... It's really game theory. You can't lose with him. Either things get better or things stay the same. I don't see a scenario where things are worse than they otherwise would have been.
That's true, and that's the thing. If he becomes president, he'll just have a slightly different flavor of authoritarianism than a Hillary Clinton. Maybe the difference on the margin would be like maybe a little bit different, like immigration policy, or the difference in the number of refugees that we take in a year. But they both want universal health care. They're both, I imagine, like economic protectionists. I don't think I've seen him say anything about the war on drugs, so they probably both support prohibition. And it goes on from there.
Well, one of the things about him being a proper nationalist is if you're a libertarian living in a suicidal Western country, you should probably be hoping a nationalist gets elected, because the nationalist says, no, I'm not going to put my country into billions of dollars more debt so that I can feed your starving country. I'm not going to increase our trade deficit and put our country in more debt for my corporate buddies. The true nationalist erroneously sees the country as a cohesive unit.
Oh, right. It's kind of like applying the concept of like self-interest to like a whole nation.
Yeah, which is inherently flawed. But if you're if you're a member of that nation, that's way better than this suicidal self-hatred that the liberals are on right now.
Oh yeah, if you have to choose, there's a clear winner without a doubt. But yeah, obviously still not the best choice for freedom. But yeah, like, is it better to bleed out because of your interactions with the world, or is it better to shut yourself away and starve to death? I'm not sure.
So how does the Donald Trump dream come true for a libertarian? You can only ask for something that's possible. So our father had, I think this is an original idea by him, but he said when Donald Trump almost locked in the nomination, what you do as him is you say, all right, I'm about competence, right? I'm about getting the right people in the right job and holding them accountable. So he says, Ted Cruz is going to be my attorney general. Rand Paul is going to be the chairman of the Fed. Ben Carson, maybe better choice there. Ben Carson's going to be the surgeon general. And
Sure.
so you list off all of these. I don't really like the Ben Carson one, but
yeah, I don't either. But I see where you're going though.
So Donald Trump bribes the entire Republican field and puts them in their area of maximum liberty expertise, because Ted Cruz wouldn't be the great president, but he would be the best attorney general in like 100 years.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. With all his flaws, he would probably definitely be the best. I'd almost. Oh, obviously. Oh, I'm about to take a trip to Fantasyland. Do I want to see Rand Paul, chairman of the Fed, or like Secretary of Defense?
No, you want him with the Fed, because there's plenty of people that don't want to be in war. But
that's true. He's like the only one talking about, or maybe you could. Actually, Ron Paul probably wouldn't take chairman of the Fed, so you'd probably have to do Rand.
No, you could probably get Ron Paul to do it. He would just walk in and just set fire.
Yeah, exactly. And God bless him.
But so, it feels so dirty talking like this as a libertarian, but neither of us want to see the country default on its debt before the next president is elected. We don't want to see welfare benefits suddenly cut off and without anyone being given notice.
Yeah, we don't want all sorts of problems.
We don't want what the hell do you do then? So Trump is, I really feel like he is all upside, because you made the big Trump mistake at the very beginning when you said he's a clown. He's not a clown. He's a character. And the difference is this character has generated and created billions upon billions of dollars of wealth.
Right.
And he's probably like 3 or 4 standard deviations of intelligence above the norm. So this guy is a character, but he is truly a paragon of competence.
Well, he's done something right. I mean, and probably some people that argue that he's done some shady stuff, which actually might still be a sign of intelligence to be able to game the system.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. Everything from his eminent domain fascism to,
exactly.
to strategically bankrupting or declaring bankruptcy on companies. It was all for his company and for his brand and for his own self-interest. I'm actually not sure you can say that he's made a single catastrophic mistake in his career.
Oh well, yeah. If you look at him now, that would not appear to be the case.
I know he's made a few investments that haven't gone particularly well, but the guy's at like a 90% complete success rate. So,
yeah, and that's actually really good because usually you fail more than you succeed.
Yeah, he's turned $1 million that his father gave him.
Yeah, right. Small business loan. Yep.
Well, $1 million. You can't build a factory with $1 million.
Oh, right. Yeah, it does seem like a big number, but when you look at like, well, what are you manufacturing? Are you building? Like, yeah, that's probably not as big as they come for sure.
And I don't know. So if he's got, a couple billion in personal wealth, I mean, you gotta add a 0 or 2 to that for the wealth that he's generated for the economy.
Oh, right, as a whole, sure.
Yeah. So I mean, this guy's a machine.
Yeah, it is interesting for all his I guess the two policy areas which intrigue me the most, which he might, it's kind of this case where I would say he's accidentally right, or maybe accidentally sort of right, is he seems to be less hawkish than the other Republicans. Like he's come out against the Iraq War, and he wants the countries around Syria and ISIS to take care of ISIS instead of getting bogged down there. So there's some intelligence there. And then also, as far as getting a hold of immigration, so like obviously we're both open borders guys, or at least I am. The problem comes where immigration turns into a government program, which turns into, okay, now there's a bunch of illegal people coming in because we just say that it's illegal, and because we start piping over refugees from third world countries, which causes a whole host of problems, especially if you create the war-torn countries that they come from. But maybe, and then you get, I think, actually the Paris shootings, they weren't immigrants, right? They were born there, I think. But then I think,
I think very few of them, if any, were recent.
Right.
Refugees.
But regardless, there are a lot of countries in Europe, Sweden, Germany, France, and others that are having significant problems with the large number of immigrant or refugees they're bringing over, and then they stick in one area and they don't assimilate. And since they're from the third world country, they're not we'll say they're not classically liberal, or they don't quite have the human rights sensibilities that we have, and so there's a lot of problems that Europe's dealing with now, and that's kind of the 1-2 punch that Trump might bring to the table. If he's less adventurous overseas, maybe there will be a less outpouring of refugees that need to be taken up, and then all these Western countries that are pathologically what's the word?
Altruistic.
Altruistic, yeah. They're pathologically altruistic, even if it's not smart, even if it's harmful, moving all these masses of people to the first world. And so I wonder if, at least, if there's a glimmer of hope of that whole mess, at least not escalating.
Well, in this libertarian's opinion, if you think something should be done, and if you think something should be done, ask yourself, one, is the government doing it? And two, is it being funded by the taxpayers? So when you talk about immigration, the answer is yes to both of those questions. So I'm against it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. People should be able to move between countries on their own power, on their own within their own abilities. And then if there's any charity, like if you want to, if you're somebody who lives in the States and you want to sponsor like a family of Syrian refugees, spend your own fucking money on it. Don't try to impose your values and what you think is right on everybody else. But the thing is, I don't think everybody's a selfish asshole. Like, if there is need, there will be people that value it enough to make it happen. Just don't try to rope everybody else into it with you.
You know, the big question for anyone who might ever be excited about Donald Trump, is, does one man have the power to prevent the U.S. government defaulting on its debt? And if the answer to that is no, then you really have no business being excited about one candidate or another. Because if the government's going to default in the next 10 to 30 years or whatever, then it almost doesn't really matter what happens in between then and now.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And in the end, like, obviously, I just got done talking about a potential thing that a Trump presidency might do, when in reality, like, he'd probably be pretty powerless to affect a lot of that.
Well, me and you both know that politics is a confidence game, and politicians are confidence men. Barack Obama does what he wants and does the executive orders that he wants, and they're successful because he says they are.
Oh, right, yeah.
And Donald Trump has the ability to do the same thing. And as far as I'm concerned, Congress passing a law is pretty much just as unlibertarian as Donald Trump executive ordering one.
Oh, right, yeah. I think, like we said a couple episodes earlier, like, the presidency, especially around election years, kind of bloated up with like what we perceive the power of the presidency to be. But you're right. Also, what power is in the executive branch can be exceeded with gusto, and
Of course, yeah.
and that kind of highlights the, you know, who watches the watchers or who polices the police.
Yep.
Well, nobody's policing the fucking president. No, we don't have a department of executive limitations. So nobody's going. Well, I guess technically that's the Congress, but we know they are pretty powerless to discipline the president at all, because usually they're split pretty heavily, and you play team politics. So you're never gonna stand against the president if he's on your party, because that's what you do. You just toe the line.
Yeah, let me ask you something, Ben. I'm really trying to keep this in terms of sort of libertarian strategic.
Mm-hmm.
So, in your mind, what's the end game for you? How do you see the government and politics evolving to a more libertarian end? Do you think there's room for gradualism? Or that's the only way to get it done? Do you think it has to be gradualism? Do you think it has to be that default? Do you think it has to be civil war? What's the Ben end game?
Well, first, the end game is whatever it is outside of our lifetimes. So I think first priority should be taking care of yourself and your family and living as free as you can. But two, I think as far as transitioning in the future, it's crazy. A lot of this stuff just kind of depends on societal choices. And man, it's hard to say, because a lot of times in history it takes a lot of pain and suffering and piles of dead bodies for new philosophical lessons to be learned. And other times it's more peaceful. But I think up until debt default, whoever's president probably doesn't matter a whole lot.
A big part of me wants to reject the gradualism, but it's a fallacy to reject that, because we got the foundation of libertarianism through gradualism, through the development of common law.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
And property rights. So while I'm skeptical of the gradualist position, the incrementalist maybe is a better way to say it. The incrementalist has one major problem, which is you have to convince me or anyone else that the U.S. has any way to stop getting in worse debt. Because the incrementalist completely loses their ground for arguing that if debt default's inevitable.
Oh, right, yeah. It'll be a... Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I've heard... maybe it was Peter Schiff, I forget who, but like what a default might look like. And I don't know, some people think it'll be like hitting a wall, and other people think it'll be like kind of like not like a soft landing, but just like a slow, gradual decline. Like there's no hard line to cross over. But yeah, that's but yeah, for me, it's interesting, and it's, political theory and crafting to talk about like what one president might do over another. But overall, I think societal choices kind of choose everything.
Have I convinced you that Donald Trump's a good idea, or have I convinced myself it's a terrible one?
Oh, both in every way.
Yeah. No, I think very good points. Though I think if Trump does get the nomination, maybe I think you have nudged me enough to at least want him to win more than Hillary Clinton. Yeah.
Or Sanders.
Just this is a little bit of a can of worms, but I see an awful lot of people who would label themselves libertarian saying that they'll vote for Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, and they should probably kill themselves immediately.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some deep brain disorder. Maybe parasites or like a syphilitic brain decay.
Yeah.
Because this is sheer madness.
Oh yeah. Oh, I like Ron Paul. Oh, Bernie Sanders. It must be. I think it's just that those people just hate corporations. And Ron Paul was against special corporations treatment. Make them compete. And Sanders is like, let's tax them and regulate them. It's like, and apparently that's similar enough for people to want to jump.
Well, what's so incoherent about Bernie Sanders is he wants to both increase the size of the federal government by 40% and audit the Fed.
Yeah.
you got to pick one.
Yeah, no joke. You don't want to audit it because you're going to need it to pay for everything.
If you audit the Fed, then things got to change and slow down. You can't do both.
Didn't he? Well, hell, he kind of gutted Ron Paul's audit the Fed bill years ago, as I understand it, because he was working with Ron on a bill like that. But I think he softened it before it got voted on, and then of course, obviously, it didn't get anywhere. But
I heard that too. I don't know any details about it though.
Exactly, me neither. But I'm not surprised. I mean, because he doesn't care about money. He just cares about attacking.
But
wealth.
So you know what that tells us, Ben, though, is there are people who consider themselves libertarian and know nothing about markets or economics.
Yeah, that's some scary shit.
Yeah. Well, what else can you say about it? They don't know anything about human choice.
Oh yeah, yeah. You could definitely led by their hearts and not their minds. That's for sure. Or maybe not even their hearts. Maybe just straight up jealousy and angst.
Yeah.
That'd probably be something interesting subject to break into later.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one more thing to the libertarian voter.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you want to fight for the cause of liberty, and you choose to do that engaging the political system, I think you have to try and play the long game. And you have to try and look into the future and see what the actions we take today will bring us 10, 20, or 30 years in the future. And this is really my argument with Donald Trump, is when I look into my crystal ball, I see a Trump presidency undermining the government and the media's ability to keep manufacturing consent. Mind blown.
Boom. Well, cool. That you make some compelling points. I won't vote for him, But if he runs up against Hillary or Sanders, I'll prefer him at least while I'm voting for Gary Johnson.
Yeah. I was going to ask you who you're going to write in, but I guess you can do that too.
Yeah. Yep. I'm pretty sure Gary Johnson's good on a lot of stuff. I'll have to read more about him, but yep. Who do you think you're gonna vote?
If I do, I would vote for Trump or Cruz. I would not vote for Rubio. And if I did vote, I would immediately go see a priest for confession.
Yeah, you definitely have to go wash off all that sin for sure.
Yep. Yeah, there'd be bleach involved.
Yeah, chug a little bit. All right, cool. Well, that concludes this episode. Thanks, Ryan, for the interesting talking points, and thanks everybody for listening. That was Liberty Theory.